I was more than a tulip or a daisy, destined to grow no matter how many times they buried me. I was destined to grow no matter how many times they poisoned my soil and poured concrete over me. If you haven't checked out my fundraiser that I put out on Everything College, I highly encourage you, after you watch this video, to go check it out because it's inspirational and it's really amazing. Head over right now to my YouTube and subscribe. Welcome to episode 3, where we talk to Manpreet about her journey to UCLA. Stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe for next week's set of episodes and go and watch the previous ones. They're really great. Everything College. I am your host, Christina Parker, supporting your college navigation while minimizing debt. And so on today's episode, we have a very special guest, and I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hey everyone, so my name is Manpreet Singh. I am going to attend to get my MSW this coming fall at UCLA. I am a psychology undergraduate student. I graduated from Davis, and I live in Sacramento, California, where I am an analyst working in foster care programming. I'm also a former foster youth, so getting an MSW is particularly important and significant for me.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So on today's interview, I'm gonna be asking Manpreet questions related to her application process, any fears or worries going into a program during a pandemic. So I know that a lot of y'all are gearing up to also go to school in fall, and so this is a great interview for you all to pay attention to. So let's get into our interview now. Okay. So my first question to you is, why did you choose to go back to school?
Okay. So that one's kind of easy for me. Although I've been working in foster care programming, I've worked in like a lot of different foster care positions throughout my career. And I'd always kind of worked either as an advocate or as working within the system to change the system. And a lot of the work currently, which is more of that systematic work, is working to change the system from working within the system. I
Mhm.
realized that that doesn't resonate with me, and I'm more so looking to connect with people on a one on one basis or from consciousness to consciousness because I'm hoping to empower folks by increasing their consciousness. So for me, the MSW was the right choice because I intend to become a clinical social worker.
Nice, thank you. Um, did the pandemic have any influence on you like picking now as the time to jump back into school?
Yeah, well, I think the pandemic had an effect insofar as that w- I transitioned to working from home.
Mm,
And working from home allowed me to spend more time with myself and be more in touch with myself, for one. And so that helped me to recognize that maybe the path I'm on isn't the direction that I'd like to go. And also, I'm staring at computers all the time,
mm,
which has not been particularly enjoyable. And so just wanting to transition into a role where I'm not staring at computers and I'm looking at people instead, those were kind of my primary deciding factors, and the pandemic did influence that.
okay, nice. So I bring you to my next question. So you said that you don't like staring at computers, and I feel you there. So how do you feel if potentially your school was to go virtual and to cancel in-person attendance? Would that impact maybe changing your direction, or how would you deal with that?
Well, that's still something that's in the air. As of now, UCLA says that they are definitely gearing towards in person. So I've been more so preparing for that. But you bring up a good point, because at this point it is still up in the air. If it were to go virtual, I think I'd still want to go ahead and pursue it, because the rationale would be that I would go to school for 2 years on the computer, right? As opposed to working my entire career trajectory while staring at the computer. So it's more so a means to an end. And after I were to get my um, LCSW, I would have the independence to do what I'd like to do with that. So if
Yeah.
it went virtual, we're already committed, so it's too late now.
I definitely feel you there. When you talk about if it goes virtual, at least it's not you spending 9 hours or 8 hours behind a computer, but it's only you spending, 3 or 4 hours behind a computer every single day. Thank you.
Yeah. Mhm.
So does the idea of school scare you? Why or why not?
So this is something that I've been doing some mindset shifting around, and I think it's important to talk about because I feel that many students go through school kind of just suffering, and the institution of school is not particularly set up to aid students in their mental health or in feeling supported. At least that hasn't been my experience, and hasn't been the experience of a lot of folks that I've connected with.
Mhm.
So I will say that my undergraduate degree, I procrastinated a lot and I was just really stressed out during finals week. But given that it's been some time that I've done my undergraduate degree and I've also transitioned into professional roles, I feel more of a responsibility when there's a due date, right? Because in the professional realm, when there's a due date, some other person is waiting on you to come through with whatever it is the task or the assignment was. It's not like you can just turn in a paper and if you get a C on it, you get a C. There's an actual human that's looking at the quality of your work and assessing it, and they need it likely to fulfill something else, right? So it's like you're building on top of the pieces in the work world. So I intend to take that mentality with me into back into my master's program. And also, I'm looking forward to genuinely seeking out community, which is something that I didn't really do in my undergraduate degree. I look forward to having meaningful conversations with my MSW cohort. So all in all, I'm doing the work now to shift my mindset so that I'm not scared. I'm visualizing myself completing my assignments on time. I'm visualizing the satisfaction that that will bring me. And most importantly, I'm visualizing enjoying learning.
Mm,
So, yeah, it's some mindset shifts that are taking some work, but I think are definitely going to help me when I get to school.
yeah, you said some great things, and I think that a lot of students that are out there, you may have reservations or have some type of fear around it, just kind of like how you mentioned. But thinking about like all of the stuff that you've done, if you have professional experience like in the work field, if you have just any type of experiences, and those that are going into masters programs are definitely different. So thank you for that.
Mhm.
So I know that you did a lot of UC applications when you're doing your process. So how did you find the UC application process? Did you find it hard? Um, did you apply to schools that were outside of the UC system? How did you feel about those two?
Yeah, so when you're applying for undergrad, right? The CSU application is one basic application that you can utilize to apply to multiple CSUs. The UC application is one basic application that you can utilize to apply to a number of UCs within that one submission. For the masters, they have not figured out that process. They have not collaborated on that process. And it's very difficult for students. I wanted to apply to a number of different schools. I only ended up applying to four, two UCs and two CSUs. And even the two UCs had different processes, they had different prompts, they had different requirements for what they require of students to submit,
Mhm.
whether it be the personal statement, whether it be the way that they calculate your job hours that you've done prior to entering, because a lot of schools they want to see your experience that you've had within the social work field. And some schools they require that you submit a GPA worksheet. Some schools want unofficial transcripts. Some schools want official. So there were a lot of inconveniences for students, and I think it's a strenuous process in and of itself to put yourself out there,
Mhm.
and they did not make it seamless. It doesn't seem there was any collaboration either at the UC level or at the CSU level.
Thank you for that. So do you have any advice that you could give students who are going through the application process to, not get discouraged by all the ups and downs?
Yeah, definitely. So I would recommend that folks who are going to apply, one, get connected with folks who have already gone throughout their master's application process. That's important to get that type of insight. If you don't have that insight, there are groups on Facebook as well. There are a number of people who are willing to assist you. Even you could reach out to the school. I would also say know your why. Why is it that you're going to receive your master's? What is your end goal? What do you hope to achieve while you're there? And focus on that. Focus on the value that it's going to bring to your life. And I would also just start small. So for me, that looked like thinking about the specific situations that may have contributed to me wanting to get my master's, or thinking about the specific issues that I come across in my daily life, that this is why I want to get my master's to help solve this problem here, right? So that way, when you sit down to write your statements for your MSW or for your master's program, you're not starting from just nowhere, from a cloud in the sky, right? You have a bit of a brainstorm on hand that you can utilize. So those are some tips that I would offer to folks. And don't be discouraged. The schools need you, right? They need you as a student. They need you. They need your value. They need your brilliance. And don't feel that you're defined by an institution, because you're not. You're literally the one that's bringing the value to the institution. Anybody else who tells you different, they're mistaken. So that's what I'd recommend.
Great advice. Thank you for that. And I'm also going to, for everyone listening out there, I'm going to link some of the Facebook groups in the chat, and then also some support groups for those that would like assistance with the application as well. Thank you for that. Um, so is there anything that you are doing to prepare for your transition into this master's program?
So oftentimes your cohort will develop a group online somewhere for you to connect. So right now I'm making it a point to reach out to folks and to connect, so that some of that initial anxiety of going to a new place and connecting with new people, hopefully to kind of ease that. I'm also looking at the professors within the program to see if there's any that I might connect with. And I'm also looking at financial aid and different ways to fund myself so that I can have more ease and just function as a student while I'm at UCLA.
That's nice. When you talk about preparing like financially, are there any things that you're thinking about doing, whether it's scholarships or other methods to, make you able to have more financial freedom?
Yeah. So I'm looking into a number of things. I'm looking into becoming a TA. as a master's student. I highly recommend for all master's students to look into becoming a teacher's assistant. That's one thing. At UCLA, we have a scholarship center on campus, so I'm reaching out to them to assist me in identifying scholarships. Granted, that process is a little bit more lengthy because you don't get a scholarship right away necessarily. And so, for example, we have the Guardian Scholars Program campus at UCLA. We also have the LGBT Center. We also have, there's just a number of different centers. So I'm connecting with them all and I'm like, hey, what resources do you have for me? So those are a few things that I'm looking at. And I'm also hoping to get a paid internship and utilize work study. So yeah, those are some of the things that I'm looking at.
Yeah, I think that you mentioned some great things, and I hope students are taking notes, but definitely looking at those resources that are on campus and asking questions to see if there's other resources that you haven't tapped into and scholarships and all of that. So definitely commend you for taking those steps and trying to navigate and find the money that's out there, because it's definitely out there. You just got to find it. Um,
Mhm.
so my next question to you is, do you have any questions for me? Is there anything that you'd like to ask me? If not, no worries.
Yeah, I mean, so what's your advice for paying for school?
Yeah, definitely. I'm always a big component of fundraising. Um, for those that don't know, I'll actually link it in this video as well if you would like to check it out. But I did a fundraiser for mine, and I did a college reveal, and it was either I'm gonna do UC Berkeley or University of Michigan, and people bought raffle tickets on what they thought I was gonna do. And so I always encourage students to be creative in fundraising. Scholarships are always a good way to go about it, but I think a better way to go about paying for college is really just utilizing some of the resources that are out there. So paying attention to politics. What is the legislation that's out there? What are some of the, in whatever your state, what are some of the, budgets that acts that have came out to support you in going to college? And so looking into those things and tapping into those things, such as HERF, Higher Education Emergency Relief Funding. That's also on my YouTube channel for those that would like to know more about that. But yeah, thank you for asking that question.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Your YouTube channel has really been such a resource, and you are really such a resource. I would definitely recommend any of my colleagues to connect with you who are pursuing going back into school. And I recommend that your YouTube followers connect with you as well because you're truly such a wealth of a resource. So I so appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you as well. For those who do not know, me and Manpreet have a friendship, and definitely have been supporting her throughout her educational journey. So super appreciate you. Yeah. So before we end, I just have one final question for you. What advice do you have for Black, Indigenous, people of color who are about to go into school or thinking about applying to university?
Yeah, so I would say that while institutions primarily have not been set up to serve BIPOC communities or value BIPOC communities' experiences, I would say that that status quo is changing, right? And to know that we're coming in and we can be a part of that change if we would like, I would say find your community that you can be yourself with, that you can share about your experiences with, and also just know like we in this bitch. So it's gonna have to change. It's gonna have to be what it's going to be. And we don't have to tolerate anything that we don't want to. You can advocate for yourself. Nobody can take your power away.
Mhm.
And so that's in the streets and that's in the schools and that's everywhere that we go. So I would just recommend stay in your power and know that you bring the value to the school.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Especially on the community part. It's so important for people to find community at schools. And yeah, it makes your experience even more rich. And I can't wait to see the community that you build at your university and the process that you go through to, get all the funding that you need. And yeah, so I can't wait until I think we're gonna have hopefully you're going to be on a guest on Everything College multiple times. So you're going to see Manpreet's beautiful face a couple times. But I can't wait until we have this conversation when you're about to graduate and get that MSW. It was a huge pleasure having you on my YouTube channel. Hello, and all of the things that we mentioned also will be linked there as well. As always, stay studious.
Hi everyone, want to learn more about my experience as a woman in the tech industry? Check out my interview with Everything College. See you soon!